In this video, we're going to be taking a look at evaluating and solving functions with tables, graphs, and equations, just making sure you can see how to use all of them flexibly. And really it comes down to understanding function notation. Like normally, when I'm looking at function notation, I'd be saying f of x, right? Well, you notice that we have, instead of an x there, we have a 2 here. So that means that the 2 is where the x would normally be, which means that I need to be looking to see where does x equal 2. That's basically what it's asking, is when does x equal 2? So let's go ahead and look down our x column here, and we look for the value of 2, which you can see is right there. And so then my answer for f of 2 then is negative 2. And so then negative 2 is the solution for that. Now it could be that as you were first looking at it, you might have been thinking about maybe looking to see where the 2 was in the right column. So you might have instead have been looking here. That is not what this notation is saying. Rather, that's what this question is asking. It's the same table, but the wording of the question just changed. In this case, it's saying, what is the value of x? So already it's saying x equals what? It's already given you that hint, such that f of x equals 2. So if f of x equals 2, that's telling you then to be looking at the f of x column. And it tells you to be looking in the f of x column for the value of 2. And so then the x value that gives us an f of x value of 2 must then be 4. So then 4 would be our answer for this one. In our next problem, we have what is the value of f of negative 3. So once again, notice where the negative 3 is. The negative 3 is inside of the parentheses. That's where x normally lives. So what it's telling you then is it's telling you x equals negative 3. Okay, so I have a graph, right? And if I know that the x value is supposed to be negative 3, I know that that's the x I'm looking at. And so I need to figure out, where does the graph equal negative 3? We basically are saying, when does it cross that line? And you can see that it happens at this point right here. Now, f of x is just a fancy name for y when it comes to graphing on our normal coordinate system, right? And so because f of x is just a fancy name for y, my y value at that point is my f of x value. Well, notice that the y coordinate there is 9. Therefore, f of negative 3 equals 9. That's my y value, and therefore it's my f value, and that would be my answer. If you were looking at it a different way, you might well have been thinking of this question. Again, notice I changed the wording on you, but same graph. In this case, it's saying f of x equals negative 3. Remember, f of x is the same idea as y. It's a fancy name for y. So it's like saying that y equals negative 3. So basically, I'm going to be looking at my graph over here and looking to see, when does my graph hit the y value down there at negative 3? And you can see that that appears to be happening right there. And so what it's saying then is, what is the value of x, right? So x equals what? Well, at that point on my graph where it crosses y at negative 3, it appears that my x coordinate is 1. And so 1 is the solution for this. And now we move on and we just have an equation. There's no table, no graph. We're just going to try to figure out what the answer is algebraically here. So what is the value of x such that f of x equals negative 8? Where does the negative 8 go in this problem? Notice f of x equals negative 8. F of x is over here. That's what I'm going to be replacing with the negative 8. And so in this problem, I'm going to write negative 8 equals 2x minus 2. Notice all I'm left with in my equation is x, which is a good thing because it's asking what is the value of x. And so if I now solve this out, I will figure out what that value of x is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And so then negative 6 equals 2x. Then I can divide both sides by 2. And I find out that negative 3 equals x. Therefore, negative 3 is my value of x, at which f of x equals negative 8. Now, again, that's one of those two wordings you might see. What if, for the same equation, the question was worded like this instead? What is the value of f of negative 8? Well, remember that the negative 8 is inside of the parentheses. That's where x normally lives. And that means that the negative 8 is replacing x in the equation wherever x appears. And so when I go to write my equation then, I'm going to write f of negative 8 equals 2, and then I got to replace this x with negative 8, but I don't want to write it like this, right? That looks like 2 minus 8. That would be bad. So I'm going to put parentheses around the value that I plugged in, just to make it clear that it's been plugged in and that it was 2 times x, and now it's going to be 2 times negative 8. And then the minus 2. On the left-hand side here, this is just going to stay f of negative 8. And then 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. That's still minus 2. So then f of negative 8 equals negative 16 minus 2, which is negative 18. Now, remember, f of negative 8, when we write it like that, that is function notation. It does not mean f times negative 8. Instead, it means the value of f at 8. It is a particular way of writing it. It's easily confused with multiplication, I know, for some people, because normally if I write a number next to a letter, it means multiply. But if you see a letter written out front of parentheses, then you're going to actually be dealing with function notation. Okay, so it's a particular nuance of it. So I say that because every now and then somebody says, okay, so now I divide by negative 8. No, no, no. Remember, it's not multiplying, it's just notation, which means I can't do anything more over here on the left. It stays f of negative 8, just like it was asking us for it to be. And so your answer is just the negative 18. That's it. Your answer is that f of negative 8 equals negative 18.